Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. You know, I may have mentioned this before in the past in a few of my other videos. You know, I don't film everything that comes into the shop right here. I probably film about 20% of the projects that come into the shop. 80% of them I don't bother filming because some of them are small, and to me, they're not worthy of filming. And I try to give you guys the best content I can by the bigger projects, the more elaborate projects. And this is why I only get a video out maybe once every 7 to 10 days. Some of these projects take up to 2 weeks to build. And when you're building them and filming them, it takes a long time. And so that's why I get those projects out. But I'm gonna change things up a little bit differently here. I'm gonna maybe show you a couple more of the smaller projects I have in the shop. I'm gonna try to get a video out once a week, and I hope you guys enjoy that. So we're gonna start out by this project right here. This is a local cabinet shop here in town, and I do a lot of work for these guys. They build, one of the things they build are floating shelves, all different size floating shelves. So I make these custom brackets for these floating shelves. I recently got this order right here. This one is a total of 18 brackets. 6 of them are going to be 19 inches by 19 inches. 12 of them are going to be 20 by 20. And the material that we're going to be using on these brackets is 1.5 inch square tube, 120 wall thickness. That's an eighth of an inch thick wall. And we're going to be making these at a 90-degree angle. Now, I know it doesn't sound like much, but you know, that's important when you go to weld those, and I'll show you the technique I use to do that. When I'm done welding, everything is at a perfect 90 degrees. There are some holes and some countersinks. I'll go over all that stuff. I think it's going to be a pretty cool project. But let's get started on today's video. Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video. All right, so first thing is first on this project right here. Like I said, I've got 18 brackets, so I need 36 pieces. This is 1.5 inch square tube, 120 wall thickness. This is what the plan's called out for this particular order. And so what I like to do here, I've done enough of these, and so the way I'm handling this is the top part of one of the brackets has got a 45 edge to it, and then the other 45 edge is what coincides with the 90 degree that goes together that make up the bracket. So what I like to do is I'm measuring here to utilize as much as I can, and I'm going to just continue to cut these 45 pieces, and I'm leaving about 1/4 inch long. And then I will come back after I get everything cut, and I will change the saw back to 90 degrees and trim that back and get that square piece right there. You can see that's what I've done right here. I've adjusted back to 90 degrees, and you can see I'm just about 1/4 inch long on that, utilizing as much as I can of the material that I have, and I've got the rest of these brackets are all cut where they need to be. So I had 30 feet of material to start with, okay? 30 feet of 1.5 inch square tube. And here I am right down to the last of it. And you can see that is what I have left. Now I would say that's using up the material to the best of your ability. And not to mention the mess I got going on there. All right, so once they're all done, I just take them over to the welding table right here, and I've got a small little angle grinder with a fine flap disc on here, and I've just got a deburring, just taking off any sharp edges that might be left over. All right, so there is the angle right there. You can see the 45 at the top. And, I was pointing out the holes that need to be drilled in the pattern. There's one thing about this. Like I said, there's 18 of these brackets. 6 of them are 20 inches by 20 inches, and 12 of them are 19 by 19 inches. So these are the 20-inch pieces. I got 6 and 6. So what I'm doing right here is to be sure that these holes are in the corresponding spot. On the top part of the bracket, the holes go into the top. On the side part of the bracket, or I should say the bottom half of the bracket, the holes go to the side. And you can see I'm double checking. Okay, I want to be sure that I get the right angle for both the top and the side pieces. Once I figured that out, the hole layout is 3 inches from one side, 5 inches from the other. And I've got a little straight edge set up right there with a couple of table dogs. And then once I've marked that, then a Sharpie's right here. And that gives me the whole pattern that I need. And I'll just be able to drill those out. Here are the remaining 12. And there's a heavy coat of oil on this. And oil and Sharpies don't work really well. And so that's why I just took some acetone right there and just cleaned the oil off. Now, one thing I'm doing right here that you don't see and you may catch it a little bit later is these particular brackets, they call for 3 holes on the side. Well, I just laid out for 2 right here. Sometimes I get carried away and worry about filming and getting everything situated, and I forgot to lay out the center hole in there, but that gets done later on in the video. All right, once that's all done, it's over to the mill, and this is the setup that I have where most people would probably take this to a drill press and drill this out. I don't really know, but I've done enough of these brackets, and this is what works best for me. I've just got it set up in my mill to where I can just line up the Sharpie's mark and manually just drill them all the way through. Now, of course, the mill's got down feed and it's got cross feed as well. And that's the way I started when I first started doing this, but it takes a long time for all that to happen. And by doing it manually like this, I found out it just is much faster and it works the best for me. A lot of holes to drill, and you know, sometimes this is tedious, but this is the way it works. And it's, you know, I gotta say, it's a 1/4 inch drill bit, and by the time you drill a ton of these holes, as much lube as you put on it, always, you can even see it right here, the tip of that drill bit is starting to burn a little bit. And I'm down around 250 RPMs, although it looks like it's much faster, but that's what I'm running on that drill. All right, so there's a bunch of holes drilled, and what you don't see is the 3rd hole. You will see that, you'll catch that here pretty soon. If you're not, if you are paying attention, you'll see that there is a middle hole drilled on this next batch coming up here pretty soon. This is the way I'm countersinking them. I've just got a countersink set up in my drill press, and like I said, I've done enough of these front and back, and this is the way I do it, and it works out pretty good. This is what the plans call for. They wanted these things with a slight little chamfer on them, so that's the way I'm doing it. And this is what worked out the best for me. All right, with that all the way, it's time to start assembly here. And I got a couple table dogs, and this is the jig setup I've got. 90 degrees and 90 degrees, and then a Sharpie's mark to give me that 90 degrees. Now, what's going to happen if you weld that together right there? You know you're going to get some shrinkage. You're going to deflect, and that's why I come back with this little piece. I clamp it down. I open that up about 3/16 of an inch before I start welding, and that, by the time you weld this out with that 3/16 opened up 3/16, by the time that bracket is done like that and it cools down, it is shrunk down to perfect 90 degrees. Now, how do I know this? I learned the hard way. This is how you learn. My first order of these, I don't know how many brackets I had to make, but boy, I thought I was on my game. Look at me. I'll fixture this up on my fixture table, weld everything up, and man, what a great way to go. And then all of them were past 90 degrees, and it was a problem. So you learn the hard way, but this is the way you do it. So if you're making a 90 degree bracket or anything 90 degrees, if you can, you got to remember it's going to shrink. You need to open that up a little bit. So just remember that. And of course, I'm welding these things all the way around, and it worked out pretty good. Now, one thing I noticed about this, you'll see I've only got one bracket on that piece that's the jig in the table right there. And what I noticed, I caught it before it happened. I think it's right in here someplace. Oh yeah, see, I caught it right there where it had slightly moved. And so I got that set back where it needs to be, and a few more clamps, clamped that down, and I didn't have any more problems the rest of the way through here. Anyways, I got a lot of these to go, so let's get these things finished up before we go on to the next step. All right, there it is. Got all of it done. Now I'll just take away my jig right there, put everything away, and then the next step is to sand everything down, or I should say grind these welds down, smooth everything out. This is what the plans call for. And you see, this is the way I'm holding it, my pieces on a slide. I just take that the 90 degree, hang it over my welding table. Got a flat piece of bar stock and one clamp, and that's enough to hold these things secure enough so I can get the grinding proper grinding on this. You know, I get a lot of people ask me what flap discs I use. This is Mercer / Champion cutting tool. They are the same company, and they do provide abrasive flap disc. And this is what the one I use is the trimmable flap disc. They make all different types of flap discs, different grits, different sizes, and I have all of them, and they do have a certain use. There's smaller ones that at 120 is pretty fine. I use those for the finer material, and they down to 36 grit, and they're a little bit rough. But man, they remove metal quickly. But my go-to is the 60 grit right here, trimmable flap disc, and it works the best for me, and I've had really good success with it. All right, so there's the 6 20-inch ones, and then here are 6 of the 19-inch, and then I'm just going to finish up the rest right here. You know, it is kind of tedious work, but once you get down to the end of the line here, it moves fairly quick. And then there are the last 6, and you can see that's the way I do them, and that's the way they turn out. Like I said, there's several different bracket sizes that I built for this company. This just happens to be one bracket right here, one bracket size. All right, so when the order is complete like this, I like to shrink wrap everything up. That's before it leaves the shop. Whoever handles these things, the edges especially right there, razor blade sharp. And I like to be sure that I get everything shrink wrapped up. And so whoever does handle them, they're not going to risk getting injured or cut on this. Anyways, this is a fun little project I want to share with you guys. Just something that comes into the shop regularly that I don't film. I hope you guys learned something with this, especially with the 90 degree welding. Be sure you leave yourself an open gap to close that in. Don't forget to check out my website, guys, for merchandise, table dog, stuff like that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.